Well, folks, sometimes in life you gotta make some really hard decisions and face some really hard truths. Today, it's time to do that. The hard truth for me to deal with today is I have too many darn CDs. Now, the last time I mentioned that I had a problem with various game discs where they sat on spools for a long period of time. And because of that, dust would get into them, they'd get scratched, etc. But that doesn't mean my backup CDs haven't been exempt from that problem, too. I've been backing stuff up to CDs and now burnable DVDs for the better part of a decade, but the problem I'm running into is, when do I ever need these? Never. And a lot of the backups that I have are actually redundant to backups I've made more recently. That would be the ones I would use if anything ever happened to my system. The last big backup I made was way back in 2004. And nowadays, there was another one I made on DVD in 2007. But I think I'm well overdue to burn some more DVDs as well. But that's the thing. I wasn't even using DVD burners back when I made my first CD backup. So basically, I've got all kinds of redundant backup CDs from forever ago that I have absolutely no use for, and some of them are actually getting scratched up for the same reasons that my game CDs were. They just sit on the spools for years on end, get moved around, etc., and things like that, and sometimes they don't work when I need them to. So, this spool, all by itself, is CDs I'm going to be throwing out. But I figured before throwing them out, let's take a look at what we got here, and a little blast from the past type stuff, Now, I've already gone through and filtered out everything I want to keep from all the backup CDs that I wound up having to destroy because they had sensitive information. These all don't have sensitive information, so I'm just going to throw them out whole. I was thinking of throwing them in the shredder and making a video out of that, kind of like the Shredder Madness video that B Bishop PCM, one of the Tech Tinkerer channels that I'm subscribed to on here, did earlier. But I don't have a modded shredder like he does, and I don't really need to shred CDs to make them completely unusable. Even cutting them in half will do the trick. I mean, just look what happened to this thing just by cutting it in half.
Epic fail.
Okay, without dropping it this time, here's the CD, what's left of it. Look at all this crap. Even if someone glued it back together, there's just no way this thing would play normally again. So I've already gone through, and hopefully I didn't destroy my scissors by doing this, but I've already cut all the stuff with sensitive information in half. So let's take a look at the rest. First and foremost, 12 CDs of videos. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hey Jay, what kind of videos? No, nothing naughty or anything like that. This is, believe it or not, these were all like viral video type things, like joke and prank videos. It's basically, this is what we had before YouTube, folks. You go to video sites like collegehumor.com or something like that and download like MPEGs of, say, somebody chug-a-lugging a bottle of maple syrup or cooking grease or something like that, or something along those lines. But yeah, this is what we had in the days before YouTube, folks. Might as well get this on film because it's definitely an archival type moment. Anyways, how often do I actually pop one of these in and look at the files on it? Never, of course. So in the trash they all go. Backup before Linux, August 2001. Oh yes, I remember that. I made sure to back everything up before messing around with Linux back then, because the first time I tried messing around with Linux was right after I went off to college. I didn't know anything about partitioning drives and learned the hard way when I wound up making my brand new computer unbootable by trying to put Linux on it. Oh, that was a dumb move. Fortunately, of course, I had the restore disks, and I learned how to partition a drive out of getting my own machine back up and running again. Fun stuff! But yeah, backup before Linux. Sage advice. But it's from 2001, so let's chuck it. Duh Backup, June 2001. It's practically a play on words. Duh Backup. I basically ran out of ideas for things to call some of my backup CDs, so I was like, Duh Backup. Again though, 2001. Let's toss it. Small stuff. Not big enough to be worth keeping though, so let's chuck the small stuff. Jay's drum practice lineup. I know this one's definitely an audio CD, but yeah, one of my first iTunes mix CDs, and I was supposed to practice my drumming abilities by playing along to power metal bands. Needless to say, that never worked. The biggest thing that killed my ability to become a drummer was I had nowhere to practice where I didn't have to worry about sound and annoying people with all the noise, so oh well. A more recent disk, Intel SSD firmware update, a firmware update for my SSD, which I never needed because out of the box the SSD already had this firmware on it. So what a waste. Final backup, another one from 2001 I think, and a total misnomer because obviously this wasn't the final backup. Summer downloads, July 2001, yeah. One problem I ran into was that I had broadband in college but had to use dial-up at home. So in case I needed any of my download files ever again, I'd back up the downloads to a CD as well. Yeah, so all that free software I messed around with, all those free games like Dink Smallwood and all those programs like the MIDI locator shareware and other stuff like that. Anything I messed with in college that I got from some download site like cnetdownload.com or something would wind up on here. But yeah, archaic. I don't need that anymore. I got broadband, and I don't actually download lots of free programs anymore just because they're free. I just pick what I want for each task and stick with it. Oh, how things have changed. F2002. That's right, F2002. It was so long ago. VG Pictures 10-2005 from Morrowind, Guild Wars, and Neverwinter Nights. Again, this one is completely redundant because this was on my DVD backup from 2007, and the next backup I make, it's going to be on there too. So, completely redundant, completely unnecessary. And last but certainly not least, the oldest backup CD I have from fall of 2000. Again, stuff I downloaded in college. It's one of those blue CDs. Yeah, talk about retro. And that's the end of the reel. Kind of a nice little blast from the past here. It was funny to, go through all these CDs and see like installers for Bonzi Buddy and other programs that haven't seen the light of day in years. So, fun stuff, fun stuff. Now, next question is, what am I going to do with the remaining spools of CDs? Well, the fact remains, that was only one of the two spools of discs I wanted to get rid of. Here's the other one, and we start off with something where I don't even know if it's got anything on it, but I don't want to be putting anything on it anytime soon. Look at that crap and all that deterioration in the material on these CDs. I thought these things were supposed to last 100 years. I think it might have been liquids or some kind of other type of thing that got into the CD and damaged it like this, but I don't know. Now, if I remember right, because I did all this several days ago before the whole Windows 8 thing, the entire rest of this spool is all Linux distribution CDs from the various times I've fiddled with Linux over the years. Let's see what we got. Mandrake Linux from college, Mandrake 8, Mandrake 9, Red Hat 7.1, Red Hat, another Red Hat 7.3, Mandrake Linux 2, EaseUS Boot CD. EaseUS To-Do Backup was an image program that I worked with before I found out about Seagate and Western Digital's specially branded editions of Acronis, Seagate Disk Wizard, and I don't know, I forgot what the Western Digital one was called, but EaseUS To-Do Backup went commercial. I don't think there's any freeware download of this anymore, so I stick with the branded stuff instead. Ubuntu 7.10. AOL version 8. Glad to get rid of this one. Let's see what else we got in this thing here. Mandrake 8, Mandrake 8, Mandrake 9.1, Mandrake 9.1.
Epic fail.
Okay, I've taken the CDs off the spool, so hopefully I don't drop any more like that again. Let's continue down the list here. Kubuntu 7.10, Xubuntu 6.10, Debian Linux net install, OpenSUSE net install, Ubuntu Linux, got a few cans to throw out there. Fedora Core 5, this is from when I first subscribed to Tech Anvil several years ago and was following his videos before he stopped making them. Fedora Core Rescue Disk, Fedora, Ubuntu Edgy Eft, SUSE Linux Disk 2, SUSE, Kubuntu 6.10, Ubuntu 64-bit edition, SUSE Disk 1, SUSE, Fedora 14, Debian Internet Installer, Kubuntu 10.10. Of course, these Internet installers are from before AT&T slapped everybody with bandwidth caps. Ubuntu 10.10, Puppy Linux 5.1.1. I think this is a live CD, so I can just put it in and bam, there's Linux. Red Hat, Mandrake security software, Red Hat 9, Red Hat 7.3, Red Hat 7.3, Mandrake Linux Disk 1, Red Hat 7.1, Mandrake 9, Mandrake 9.1, and another empty spool. So yeah, that's quite a bunch of Linux. That's quite a lot of burnable CDs just from Linux distros that I've messed with over the years. And that's a wrap. Well, that gets me down to just 2 spools, which consist entirely of a combination of blanks and discs that I actually want to keep. Something very important that I should probably bring up is if you go to do something like this, keep in mind that old optical discs are among the most rudimentary forms of e-waste out there. So definitely, if you want to do the right thing, and you're going to prune your burned disc collection or throw out some old backups or something, definitely look into options for recycling old discs. Until next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.